The transport ship landed with a loud thud on the rocky ground of Kepler 440b. Dust clouds rose around the metal ship as its engines slowly shut down. Through the small window, Hannah could see the mining station in the distance. Looked like a collection of gray boxes connected by metal walkways. This was going to be her new home. Hannah picked up her small bag and walked toward the ship's exit. She was 23 years old and had just finished her training at Earth's military academy. This was her first real job as a security officer. She felt nervous, but also excited. Finally, she was going to work with aliens from other worlds. The ship's doors opened with a hiss. Hot, humid air rushed inside. Hannah stepped outside and immediately felt the weight of the heavy atmosphere. The air was thick and smelled like metal and something else she could not name. Above her, 2 suns hung in the orange sky, making everything look strange and dreamlike. "Must be the new human," said a deep voice behind her. Hannah turned around and saw her first alien. He was tall, maybe 7 feet, with green scaly skin and yellow eyes. He looked like a lizard that had learned to walk on 2 legs. His uniform had patches that showed he was a security chief. "Yes, sir," Hannah said, trying to sound confident. "I'm Hannah, reporting for duty." The alien looked her up and down. "Yes." Yellow eyes showed no emotion. "I am Vexstar, security chief of this station. Follow me." As they walked toward the mining station, Hannah looked around at the strange world. The ground was covered with red rocks and strange plants that looked like they were made of metal. In the distance, she could see a thick jungle with trees that were purple and blue instead of green. Everything was alien and beautiful in a scary way. "This planet is dangerous," Vexstar said as they walked. "The animals here can kill you in seconds. The plants are poisonous. Even the air will make you sick if you stay outside too long without protection." "I understand, sir," Hannah replied. "Do you?" Vexstar stopped walking and turned to face her. "You humans are new to space. You think you are tough because you survived on one little planet. But out here, you are nothing. You are small and weak. Your skin is soft. Your bones break easily." Hannah felt her face get hot with anger, but she kept quiet. She had been warned that some aliens did not respect humans yet. They reached the main building of the mining station. It was bigger than it looked from far away, with thick walls and small windows. Vexstar opened the door and led her inside. The inside of the station was full of activity. Aliens of different shapes and sizes were walking around, carrying tools and equipment. Some looked like insects with 4 arms. Others were short and fat with rocky skin. A few looked almost human, but had blue skin and no hair. "This is our main work area," Vexstar explained. "We mine rare crystals from the jungle. These crystals are very valuable. They're used to power starships and space stations across the galaxy." They walked through the busy area. Hannah noticed that the aliens barely looked at her. When they did, their expressions were not friendly. She could hear some of them whispering to each other in languages she did not understand. Vexstar pointed to a man working on a large machine. "He is human like you. He has been here for 10 years. Hannah looked at the man. He was maybe 50 years old, with gray hair and dark skin. His clothes were dirty, and his hands were covered in oil. He looked up when he heard his name. "Another human?" Do-Yan asked. "They're sending them younger and younger these days." "This is Hannah," Vexstar said. "She'll be working security." Do-Yan laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Security? Look at her. She is tiny. What is she going to do against the bandits who attack our supply ships?" "Bandits?" Hannah asked. "Yes," Vexstar said. "We have a problem with local criminals. They steal our crystal shipments. They are very dangerous, much more dangerous than anything you've faced on Earth." They continued the tour. Vexstar showed her the sleeping quarters, the dining area, and the equipment storage. Everything was built for aliens who were much bigger than humans. Hannah had to jump to reach some of the controls. "Your sleeping area is here," Vexstar said, opening a door to a small room. "You will share this section with the other human workers." The room was basic but clean. It had a bed, a small desk, and a closet. A window looked out toward the jungle. Hannah put her bag on the bed. "Get some rest," Vexstar said. "Tomorrow you start your real work. You will patrol the outer fence. It is simple. Work. Even a human can do it." After Vexstar left, Hannah sat on her bed and looked out the window. The jungle was beautiful but scary. The trees were huge and covered with plants that glowed softly in the dim light. She could see small flying creatures moving between the branches. Sometimes she thought she saw larger shapes moving in the darkness between the trees. There was a knock on her door. Doyen came in carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Welcome to paradise," he said, handing her a cup. "I thought you might want to hear the truth about this place."
What?
"What do you mean?" Hannah asked. "The aliens here do not respect humans," Doyen said. "They think we are weak and stupid. They give us the worst jobs and the most dangerous assignments. If something goes wrong, they blame us." "What about the bandits?" Hannah asked. Doyen's face became serious. "They are real. They attack our supply ships every few weeks. They are not just criminals. They are organized and smart. They know our schedules and our routes. Someone is helping them. Who, I do not know, but I think someone at this station is giving them information. The aliens in charge do not want to believe it. They think it is easier to blame human security officers when shipments go missing." Hannah drank her coffee. It was bitter, but warm. "So what do I do?" "Be careful," Doyen said. "Watch everything. Why trust no one? And remember, if something happens to you out there, the aliens will not risk their lives to save you. They will just order another human to replace you." After Doyen left, Hannah continued to look out the window. The jungle was getting darker. As the 2 suns set, strange sounds came from the trees, calls and roars from animals she had never heard before. This world was dangerous, and she was far from home. But Hannah was not scared. She was angry. The aliens thought humans were weak because they were small. They thought humans were stupid because they were new to space. They were wrong. On Earth, humans had survived ice ages and diseases and wars. They had climbed the highest mountains and crossed the deepest oceans. They had built cities and starships and dreams of the future. Humans were not weak. They were survivors. Tomorrow, she would start her real work. She would show these aliens what humans could really do. Outside her window, something large moved between the trees. For just a moment, Hannah saw 2 glowing eyes looking back at her. Then they disappeared into the darkness. She was not alone on this world, but she was not afraid. The hunt was about to begin. The next morning came too early. Hannah woke up to the sound of loud alarms echoing through the station. She jumped out of bed and put on her security uniform. The uniform was too big for her small frame, but it would have to do in the main hall. Aliens were running around carrying equipment and shouting orders in different languages. Hannah found Vexstar near the communications center. He was talking to a group of larger aliens who looked angry. "What is happening?" Hannah asked. Vexstar turned to look at her. His yellow eyes were cold. "Another supply ship was attacked last night. The bandits took everything. 3 alien workers are dead." "I am sorry," Hannah said. "Sorry does not help," Vexstar snapped. "We need action. We need to find these criminals and stop them." A tall alien with 4 arms stepped forward. This was Kirix, one of the mantis-like workers Hannah had seen yesterday. "Security's weak," Kirix said in broken galactic standard. "Humans cannot protect us. We need real soldiers." "Humans are what we have," Vexstar replied. "Company does not want to pay for better security." Another alien laughed. This one was huge, with rocky gray skin. Hannah remembered his name was Bolvac. "Look at her," he said, pointing at Hannah. "She is smaller than my youngest child. How can she stop armed bandits?" All the aliens looked at Hannah. She felt her face get hot, but she stood straight and looked back at them. She would not show weakness. "Give me a chance," Hannah said. "I will prove myself." Vexstar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Very well. Today you will patrol the outer fence. Walk the perimeter and watch for anything unusual. Try not to get killed." After the meeting, Hannah went to get her equipment. Do-Yoon was in the equipment room checking weapons. I heard about the attack, he said without looking up. 3 more good aliens dead, because security is not strong enough. Vexstar wants me to patrol the outer fence today, Hannah told him. Do-Yan stopped what he was doing and stared at her. The outer fence. That is where the attacks happen. That is where the bandits scout our defenses. I know. Hannah, listen to me, Do-Yan said seriously. The aliens are sending you out there, hoping you will be killed. Then they can tell the company that human security officers are too weak for this job. What choice do I have? Hannah asked Du-Hyan, sighed and handed her a weapon. It was a standard energy rifle, but it looked huge in her small hands. Be careful. Stay near the fence. Do not go into the jungle alone. And if you see bandits, do not try to be a hero.
I'll run back to the station
and call for help. Hannah took the weapon and checked its power cell. I will be careful. I hope so, Diane said. Earth has already lost too many good people out here. The outer fence was 3 miles from the main station. Hannah took a small transport vehicle to get there. The fence was tall and made of metal, with electric wires running along the top. It stretched for miles in both directions. Separating the mining station from the dangerous jungle, Hannah began her patrol, walking slowly along the fence line. The morning was hot and humid. Sweat began to form on her forehead after just a few minutes. The jungle on the other side of the fence was alive with sounds, birds calling, insects buzzing, and other noises she could not identify. After 2 hours of walking, Hannah stopped to rest in the shade of a watchtower. She drank some water and looked out at the jungle. The trees were so thick that she could not see more than a few feet into them. Anything could be hiding in there. That was when she heard voices. The voices were speaking in Galactic Standard, but with accents she did not recognize. Hannah grabbed her rifle and moved carefully toward the sound. She stayed low and used the fence posts for cover. Through a gap in the trees, she saw them. 3 aliens were crouched near the fence, about 50 yards away. They were examining the fence and taking notes on small electronic devices. The first alien was tall and thin, with dark blue skin and sharp claws. His clothes were black and covered with weapons. The second was shorter, but very muscular, with thick arms and legs. His skin was gray and looked like stone. The third alien was different from any species Hannah had seen before. He had 4 legs instead of 2 and moved like a large cat. The fence is weak here, the blue alien was saying. We can cut through it easily. When is the next supply shipment? Asked the gray alien. Tomorrow night, replied the 4-legged alien. Same route as always. These stupid miners never change their patterns. The blue alien stood up and looked directly at the spot where Hannah was hiding. For a moment, she thought he had seen her. But then he looked away. The humans are patrolling today, he said. I saw one walking along the fence. Humans. The gray alien laughed. Those tiny weaklings? I could crush one with my bare hands. The company must be desperate, said the 4-legged alien, sending such pathetic creatures to guard their precious crystals. It makes our job easier, the blue alien said. Humans are cowards. They run at the first sign of danger. Hannah felt anger building inside her chest. These criminals were planning another attack, and they thought humans were too weak to stop them. The blue alien seemed to be their leader. My name is Drixel, he said to the others. I have fought in wars across 3 star systems. I have killed creatures 10 times the size of these little humans. They do not scare me. What if they call for help from the station? The gray alien asked. Let them, Drixel replied. By the time help arrives, we will be gone with their crystals. And if any human tries to stop us, he made a cutting motion. Across his throat, the aliens began to move away from the fence, heading deeper into the jungle. Hannah knew she should follow them to see where they were going. But Do-Yan had warned her not to go into the jungle alone. She waited until the voices faded away, then slowly stood up. Her hands were shaking slightly, but not from fear. She was angry. These bandits thought humans were weak and stupid. Thought she would run away at the first sign of trouble? They were wrong. Hannah began to walk back toward the station. But she moved carefully and quietly. She kept looking over her shoulder to make sure the bandits were not following her. As she walked, she noticed things she had not seen before. There were marks on some of the trees near the fence. Large claw marks, much bigger than anything the bandits could have made. Some of the smaller trees were broken or pushed over. The ground in several places was disturbed, as if something very heavy had walked through. Something else lived in this jungle. Something bigger and more dangerous than the bandits. When Hannah reached the transport vehicle, she looked back at the jungle one more time. For just a moment, she thought she saw movement in the shadows between the trees. Something large and dark watching her. But when she looked again, there was nothing there. The drive back to the station gave Hannah time to think. She had information about the bandits' plans. She knew they were going to attack the next supply shipment. She could warn Vexstar and maybe save lives. But would the aliens believe her? Would they think she was making up stories to seem important? There was only one way to find out. When Hannah arrived at the station, she went straight to Vexstar's office. The security chief was studying reports on his computer when she knocked on his door. "What do you want?" he asked without looking up. "Saw the bandits," Hannah said. "They were scouting the fence. They're planning to attack tomorrow night's supply shipment."
Ow!
Vexstar looked at her.
Ow!
His yellow eyes were suspicious. "You saw bandits? How many? 3 of them?" Their leader called himself Drixel. He had blue skin and spoke like a military officer. Vexstar leaned back in his chair. "Drixel is a known criminal. He has attacked shipping routes throughout this sector." He paused. "What exactly did you hear?" Hannah told him everything the bandits had said. Vexstar listened carefully, but his expression did not change. "Interesting," he said when she finished. "If this is true, we can be ready for them." "This is true?" Hannah asked. "You think I am lying?" "I think you are a young human who wants to impress her new boss," Vexstar said coldly. "But I will check your story. If you are wrong, you will be sent back to Earth in disgrace." Hannah left Vexstar's office feeling frustrated. She had risked her life to get information about the bandits, and he did not even believe her, but at least he would check her story.
That's...
That was something. As she walked back to her quarters, Hannah thought about the bandits' words. They thought humans were weak and cowardly. Tomorrow night she would have a chance to prove them wrong. She just hoped she would live long enough to do it. That night, Hannah could not sleep. She kept thinking about the bandits and their plan to attack the supply shipment. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Drixel's face and heard his mocking words about weak humans. At dawn, she got dressed and went to the dining hall. Most of the aliens were already there, eating their breakfast and talking in low voices. When Hannah walked in, the conversation stopped. Everyone looked at her. She got her food and sat at an empty table. A few minutes later, Doyan joined her. "I heard you reported seeing bandits yesterday," he said quietly. "News travels fast here," Hannah replied. "Vexstar sent a patrol to check your story," Doyan continued. "They found tracks and evidence that aliens had been near the fence." He was surprised. "Good. Maybe now he will believe me." Doyan shook his head. "Do not count on it. Even if you were right this time, he still thinks humans are unreliable." After breakfast, Hannah went to the equipment room to prepare for another patrol. She was checking her rifle when someone came up behind her. "You are the human who saw the bandits." Hannah turned around and saw a man she had not met before. He was human, maybe 30 years old, with short black hair and kind eyes. He wore the uniform of a research scientist. "I am Park Jin-ho," he said. "I study the plants and animals on this planet." "Lee Hannah," she replied. "Security officer, heard about your encounter yesterday," Jin-ho said. "I wanted to warn you about something. The area where you saw the bandits is very dangerous." "Because of the criminals?" "No," Jin-ho said seriously. "Because of what lives in that part of the jungle. There are creatures there that even the bandits should fear." Hannah put down her rifle. "What kind of creatures?" Jin-ho looked around to make sure no one was listening. "The locals call them the Kimura. They are the apex predators of this world. Imagine a creature that combines the best hunting abilities of a big cat with the intelligence of a dolphin." "How big are they?" "Adult males can be 10 feet long and weigh over 1,000 pounds. They have adaptive camouflage that makes them almost invisible. They hunt in coordinated groups like wolves, but they are much smarter." Hannah felt a chill run down her spine. Are they dangerous to humans? They are dangerous to everything, Ginho replied. But here's the interesting part. They are not just killers. They are territorial and intelligent. They remember faces. They hold grudges, and they have their own sense of justice.
What do you mean?
I have been studying them for 2 years, Jinho explained.
They do not attack randomly. They observe first. They learn about intruders in their territory. If you respect their space and do not harm their environment, they might leave you alone. But if you damage their territory or kill their prey for double quotes, he shrugged. They will hunt you down. From very far away. From very far away, it was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Like watching death itself move through the jungle. A loud alarm began to sound throughout the station. Hannah and Ginho ran to the main hall, where Vexstar was addressing a crowd of workers. The supply convoy left the main depot an hour ago, Vexstar announced. If the humans' information is correct, the bandits will attack somewhere along the jungle route tonight. What is the plan? Asked Kirex. We will escort the convoy with additional security, Vexstar said. If the bandits attack, we will be ready for them. Who will be on the escort? Team Bolvac asked. Vexstar looked directly at Hannah. Since the human provided the intelligence, she will be part of the escort. Her information is wrong, she will face the consequences. After the meeting, Hannah spent the day preparing for the mission. She cleaned her weapon, checked her communication, equipment, and studied maps of the convoy route. The path went through 30 miles of jungle road. With many places where bandits could set up ambushes, Doyan found her in the map room. You do not have to do this, he said. Tell Vexstar you are sick. Let someone else handle the escort duty. I cannot do that, Hannah replied. If I back down now, every alien in this station will think humans are cowards. Better to be thought a coward than to be dead. Maybe. But I did not come all the way out here to hide when things get dangerous. As the sun began to set, the escort team gathered in the vehicle bay. Besides Hannah, there were 4 aliens. Vexstar, 2 security guards she did not know, and Bolvac, who carried a massive weapon that looked like it could destroy a building. Remember Vexstar said as they climbed into their escort vehicle? We stay with the convoy at all times. If we are attacked, protect the cargo. The crystals are worth more than any of our lives. The convoy consisted of 3 vehicles. The supply truck was in the middle, with escort vehicles in front and behind. Hannah was in the rear escort with Vexstar and one of the guards. They drove into the jungle as darkness fell. The road was narrow and winding, surrounded by thick trees. On both sides, the headlights of their vehicles created moving shadows that made everything look scary and strange. Perfect place for an ambush, the guard next to Hannah muttered. Stay alert, Vexstar ordered. The human said the attack would happen tonight. If she was right about the timing, she might be right about the location too. They had been driving. For 2 hours when it happened, the lead escort vehicle suddenly exploded in a ball of fire. The supply truck slammed on its brakes, and the rear escort almost crashed into it. Ambush, Vexstar shouted into his radio. All units, we are under attack. Energy blasts began to rain down from the trees on both sides of the road. The attackers had chosen their spot well. The convoy was trapped on a narrow section of road with no room to turn around. Hannah jumped out of the vehicle and took cover behind its armored side. She could see muzzle flashes in the jungle, but the bandits themselves were hidden in the darkness. There are too many of them. The guard yelled. Vexstar was speaking rapidly into his radio, calling for backup from the station. But Hannah knew that help would take at least an hour to arrive. Had to survive until then. A figure appeared at the edge of the road. It was Drixel, the blue-skinned bandit leader. He was carrying a powerful weapon and flanked by 2 other bandits. Surrender now, Drixel shouted. Give us the crystals, and we will let you live. Never, Vexstar replied, firing his weapon at the bandits. The battle continued for several minutes. The convoy guards were outnumbered, but they had better cover. Slowly, the bandits began to advance on their position. That was when Hannah noticed something strange. The jungle around them had become completely quiet. The sounds of birds and insects that had been constant since they entered the forest had stopped. "Something is wrong," she said to Vexstar. "Of course something is wrong," he snapped. "We are being attacked by criminals." "No, I mean something else." Hannah looked around nervously. "Listen, do you hear that?" "I do not hear anything." "Exactly. The jungle is too quiet." Ginho had told her that when the apex predators were hunting, all the other animals went silent. They hid and waited for the danger to pass. But what were the Mora hunting? Another energy blast exploded near their position. One of the convoy guards cried out in pain as he was hit in the shoulder. They were losing the battle. Drixel stepped into the open, confident now that victory was close. "Look at you," he called out mockingly, "hiding behind your vehicles like frightened children. Is this the best security the mining company can provide?" Pointed his weapon directly at Hannah. "Especially you, little human. Did you really think you could stop warriors like us? Your species is weak and pathetic. We should have stayed on our own worlds," another bandit added. "Space is too dangerous for creatures like humans." The bandits laughed at their own jokes. They were enjoying this moment of victory, but Hannah was not listening to their insults anymore. She was watching the jungle behind them. Something was moving. In the shadows between the trees, something big. The bandits continued their taunts, completely unaware that they were being watched. They had been so focused on attacking the convoy that they had not noticed the real danger approaching from behind. "You humans are all the same," Drixel continued, soft and weak, and he stopped talking. Behind him, a pair of glowing eyes had appeared in the darkness, then another pair, and another. The Dicamora had found them. Hannah slowly reached for her communication device. She needed to warn the others about what was coming. But as she moved, she accidentally knocked over a piece of equipment. The sound echoed through the quiet jungle. Drixel heard the noise and turned to look at her. For a moment, their eyes met across the battlefield. "Trying to call for help, little human?" he sneered. "It will not matter. By the time anyone arrives, you will all be dead." Behind him, the glowing eyes were getting closer. Whatever was out, there was moving with incredible stealth and patience. The bandits still had not noticed anything. "Actually," Hannah said quietly, "I think you have bigger problems to worry about." Drixel frowned. "What are you talking about?" "Turn around," Hannah suggested. "I am not falling for such an obvious trick," Drixel replied. But some of his confidence seemed to be fading. One of the other bandits was looking around nervously. "Boss," he said, "something feels wrong. Why is everything so quiet?" "It is just the battle," Drixel said. But his voice was less certain now. The glowing eyes were very close now. Hannah could see the outline of massive shapes moving through the jungle. The Vecmora were positioning themselves for an attack. "Last chance," Hannah called out. "Turn around and look behind you." This time Drixel hesitated. Something in her voice must have convinced him that she was not bluffing. Slowly he began to turn around. What he saw made him freeze in terror. Standing in the jungle behind the bandits were three of the largest predators Hannah had ever imagined. They were like enormous cats, but with longer legs and more muscular bodies. Their fur was so dark it seemed to absorb light. Their eyes glowed like yellow lamps in the darkness. The largest of the three creatures stepped forward. It was massive, easily 10 feet long, and built like a machine designed for killing. Its gaze swept over the bandits, then moved to the convoy defenders, and finally settled on Hannah. For a long moment, human and apex predator stared at each other. Then the creature tilted its head slightly, as if asking a question. The hunt was about to begin. The large Vecmora stared at Hannah for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Its yellow eyes seemed to look right through her, studying her like she was a puzzle it was trying to solve. Drixel and his bandits had gone completely silent. The blue-skinned leader was pointing his weapon at the massive predator, but his hands were shaking. Behind him, his fellow criminals were backing away slowly, trying not to make any sudden movements. What? What is that thing?" one of the bandits whispered. "Apex predator," Hannah said quietly, never taking her eyes off the lead Vecmora. "They rule this jungle." The creature took a step forward. Its movement was so smooth and quiet that it seemed to float above the ground. The other two, the Kimura, moved to flank the bandits, cutting off their escape routes. "Shoot it," Drixel ordered his men. "Boss, there are 3 of them," another bandit said nervously. "And they are huge. They're just animals," Drixel snapped. "We have weapons." But when he raised his energy rifle to fire, the lead Thekmora made a sound that was somewhere between a growl and a purr. It was not loud, but it carried a clear message. "Try it and see what happens." Drixel hesitated. Sweat was running down his blue face, despite the cool night air. From her position behind the convoy vehicle, Hannah watched the scene unfold. She remembered what Jinho had told her about these creatures. They were intelligent. They observed before they acted. They were trying to understand the situation. The problem was that the bandits had been shooting weapons and making loud noises. In the Thekmora's territory, it damaged trees with their energy blasts. It disturbed the peace of the jungle. To the apex predators, the bandits were invaders who needed to be removed. "Do not move," Hannah called out softly to Vexstar and the other convoy guards. "Stay perfectly still." "What are you talking about?" Vexstar hissed back. "We need to use this distraction to escape." "No," Hannah said firmly. "These creatures are deciding who belongs here and who does not. If we run or fight, they will see us as threats too. You want us to just sit here and watch? Trust me." The lead Thekmora turned its attention back to the bandits. It studied each of them carefully, as if memorizing their faces. Then it looked at their weapons and the damage they had caused to the surrounding trees. Drex, single quotes, was losing his nerve. Forget the crystals. We can find the crystals. We can find easier targets. But when the bandits tried to back away into the jungle, the other 2 Thekmora blocked their path. The creatures moved without making a sound, positioning themselves like chess pieces on a board. "We are trapped," one of the bandits said in panic. "Calm down," Drixel ordered, but his own voice was shaking. "They are just animals. We can handle animals." He raised his weapon again, and this time fired directly at the lead Thekmora. The energy blast hit the creature in the shoulder, burning its dark fur. The response was immediate and terrifying. The wounded Thekmora roared with a sound that shook the ground. It was not just anger, it was the sound of a patient hunter who had finally decided to act. All 3 creatures attacked at once. What followed was not really a battle. It was more like watching a natural disaster. The Thekmora moved with incredible speed and coordination. They were like shadows with claws and teeth. Drixel managed to fire 2 more shots before the lead creature reached him. Then he disappeared under 600 pounds of angry predator. His screams echoed through the jungle for only a few seconds. The other bandits tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The Thekmora had planned this attack perfectly. Every escape route was blocked. Every hiding spot was covered. "Should we help them?" Vexstar whispered to Hannah. "Help who?" Hannah replied. "The criminals who were trying to kill us 5 minutes ago. But this is a massacre. This is justice. These bandits have been attacking convoys and killing innocent workers. For months. They chose to come into this territory and cause trouble. The battle, if it could be called that, was over in less than 2 minutes." The jungle returned to its previous silence. The 3 Thekmora stood among the bodies of the bandits, breathing heavily but otherwise unharmed. Then they turned their attention to the convoy. Hannah felt her heart start beating faster. This was the moment of truth. Would the apex predators see the convoy guards as more invaders to be eliminated? Or would they recognize a difference between the attackers and the defenders? The lead Thekmora approached slowly. It walked right up to the convoy vehicle where Hannah was hiding and stopped just a few feet away. Up close, the creature was even more impressive. Its muscles moved under its dark fur like steel cables. Its claws were longer than Hannah's fingers. Its teeth were designed for tearing apart anything that got in its way. But its eyes were intelligent. They showed curiosity rather than aggression. The creature lowered its massive head and sniffed in Hannah's direction. She forced herself to remain completely still, even though every instinct was telling her to run. The Thekmora seemed to recognize her scent. Its expression changed slightly, becoming less threatening. After a long moment, it made a soft, chuffing sound that might have been approval. Then it turned and walked back into the jungle. The other two creatures followed, disappearing into the darkness as silently as they had appeared. For several minutes, nobody moved. The convoy guards stayed hidden behind their vehicles, afraid that the predators might return. Finally, Vexstar stood up slowly. "Are they gone?" "I think so," Hannah replied, but she kept watching the tree line. "What just happened?" asked one of the other guards. "The Thamora eliminated a threat to their territory," Hannah explained. "The bandits were causing damage and making noise. The predators decided they did not belong here, and they left us alone because we were not the ones attacking. We were defending ourselves." Vexstar looked at the bodies of the bandits scattered around the road. "These creatures are incredibly dangerous," as Hannah agreed, "but they are also intelligent. I cannot tell the difference between invaders and defenders." The convoy guards began to emerge from their hiding spots. They looked around nervously, as if expecting the Decamora to return at any moment. "We need to report this to the station," Vexstar said, "and we need to get these crystals delivered safely." "What about the bodies?" asked one of the guards. "Leave them," Hannah suggested. "This is the jungle's territory now. Let it decide what to do with them." As they prepared to continue their journey, Vexstar approached Hannah. His yellow eyes looked different than before, less dismissive, more respectful. "Your intelligence about the bandit attack was accurate," he said. "You may have saved lives. Tonight, I was just doing my job, perhaps, but not many security officers would have remained calm when facing apex predators." "I had good advice," Hannah replied, thinking of Jinho's warnings about respecting the local ecosystem. The convoy reached its destination without further incident. The crystal delivery was completed successfully, and the guards returned to the mining station as the sun was rising. News of the bandit attack and the intervention of the Ekmora spread quickly through the station. By the time Hannah got back to her quarters, everyone was talking about what had happened. Some of the aliens seemed impressed that she had survived an encounter with apex predators. Others whispered that she had been lucky. A few suggested that humans might have some useful skills after all, but Dojon's reaction was different. When he found Hannah in the dining hall later that morning, he looked worried. "I heard about last night," he said, sitting down across from her. "The aliens are saying you stayed calm when the predators appeared. I did what seemed right. Hannah, you need to be careful. Some of the aliens are starting to think that maybe humans are not as weak as they originally believed. That could be dangerous." "Why would that be dangerous?" "Because if humans are seen as strong, we become a threat instead of just a nuisance. And threats get eliminated." Before Hannah could respond, an alarm began to sound throughout the station. But this was not the usual shift change alarm. This was the emergency signal that meant immediate danger. Vexstar's voice came over the communication system. "All security personnel report to the main briefing room immediately. We have a situation." Hannah and Doyen hurried to the briefing room, along with the other security staff. Vexstar was standing in front of a large display screen that showed a map of the local area. "We have received a distress signal from Mining Outpost 7, Vexstar announced. "It is located 30 miles south of here, deeper in the jungle. The signal was cut off abruptly 20 minutes ago." "What kind of distress?" asked one of the guards. "Unknown, but Outpost 7 has valuable equipment and a crew of 12 workers. We need to investigate." Vexstar's eyes found Hannah in the crowd. "Given your performance last night, you will lead the rescue mission, sir. You demonstrated that you can handle dangerous situations in the jungle. Take 2 volunteers and investigate." "What happened to Outpost 7? After the briefing, Hannah found herself standing in the equipment room with 2 alien volunteers, Kyrix.
You're the mantis-like worker and a security guard named Talvik who resembled a walking tree trunk.
"I cannot believe I am following a human into the jungle," Kyrix muttered as he checked his weapon. "After last night, maybe humans are tougher than we thought," Talvik replied. "Or maybe she was just lucky." Hannah ignored their comments and focused on preparing for the mission. Something had happened to Outpost 7, and 12 workers were missing or dead. She had a feeling this was going to be more dangerous than a simple bandit attack. As they loaded their equipment into a transport vehicle, Jinho appeared at the equipment room door. "I heard about your mission," he said to Hannah. "Outpost 7 is deep in Nekmora territory. Be very careful. Any advice? Remember what I told you about respect? These creatures have long memories. If you show them proper consideration, they might leave you alone. But if you threaten their territory or their pack, what? Then you become prey." The transport. The vehicle was loaded and ready. Hannah climbed into the driver's seat while Kirix and Talvik took positions in the back. "Are you sure about this?" Kirix asked as they drove away from the station. "Maybe we should wait for backup." 12 people might be dying while we wait," Hannah replied. "We need to investigate now." But as they drove deeper into the jungle, she wondered if Jinho was right. Were they entering territory where even apex predators might be afraid to go? The trees grew thicker and taller as they traveled south. The road became narrower and more overgrown. And everywhere, Hannah could feel the sensation of being watched by invisible eyes. The transport vehicle moved slowly through the thick jungle. The road to Mining Outpost 7 was barely visible under fallen leaves and twisted roots. Hannah had to drive carefully to avoid getting stuck in the soft ground. "This place gives me the creeps," Kirix said from the back seat. His forearms were checking and rechecking his weapons. "Too quiet," Talvik nodded his massive head. "Where are all the jungle sounds? Usually there are birds and insects everywhere." Hannah knew why the jungle was silent. The Nekmora were nearby. All the smaller animals were hiding until the apex predators moved on. "Stay alert," she told her team. "We are deep in their territory now." After 2 hours of driving, they reached Mining Outpost 7. What they found made Hannah's blood run cold. The outpost looked like a war zone. Buildings were damaged, and some were completely destroyed. Equipment was scattered everywhere. Vehicles were overturned. But there were no bodies anywhere. "Where is everyone?" Kirix whispered. "I do not know," Hannah replied. "But something terrible happened here." They parked their vehicle and got out to investigate. Hannah led the way, moving carefully between the damaged buildings. She kept her weapon ready but pointed down. She did not want to appear threatening to anything that might be watching. The main office building was still standing, but the door had been torn off its hinges. Inside, computer screens were smashed and papers were scattered across the floor. There were claw marks on the walls, huge gouges that went deep into the metal. "These are not from any weapon," Talvik observed, running his fingers along the marks. "Something with very large claws did this." "Nekmora?" Kirix asked nervously. "Maybe," Hannah said. "But why would they attack a mining outpost?" Jinho said they only eliminate threats to their territory. They searched the other buildings but found the same thing everywhere, damage that looked like it came from massive claws and teeth, but no bodies. It was as if the 12 workers had simply vanished. In the equipment shed, they found something that made Hannah stop and think. There were energy weapon scorch marks on the walls, but they were old, at least several days old. The claw marks were fresh, probably from this morning. 2 different attacks, she said to herself. "What?" Kirix asked. "The energy weapon damage is old. Someone attacked this outpost with guns several days ago. But the claw marks are new. Something else was here. This morning. So what happened to the workers?" Before Hannah could answer, they heard voices coming from the jungle. Human voices speaking in desperate whispers. "Help, ... Please help us, ... double quotes over here," Talvik called out. "There are survivors." Hannah held up her hand to stop him. Something felt wrong.
Ow.
The voices were coming from deep in the jungle, where no human should be able to survive. "Wait," she said quietly. "Let me think about this." The voices continued calling for help, but they seemed to be moving around the outpost in a circle. Sometimes the voices came from the north, sometimes from the south. It was like whoever was calling was walking around them. We'd have to help them. Kirix insisted. "No," Hannah said firmly. "This is a trap." "How do you know?" "Because 12 people do not survive in Nekmora territory for hours, by wandering around calling for help. They would either be dead or hiding silently, as if responding. To her words, the voices stopped. The jungle became completely silent again. Then they heard new sounds. Footsteps. Many footsteps, coming from multiple directions. "We are surrounded," Talvik said, raising his weapon. Figures began to emerge from the jungle, but they were not the missing miners. They were bandits, more criminals from Drixel's organization. There were at least 20 of them, all armed with energy weapons. The bandit leader was a female alien with red skin and 6 arms. She was pointing multiple weapons at Hannah's team. "Drop your weapons," she ordered. "You are now prisoners of the Crimson Claw clan." "Where are the miners from this outpost?" Hannah demanded. The red-skinned alien laughed. "They are safe. For now, we are holding them as hostages to trade for mining equipment and crystals. You are the ones who attacked this place." "Of course, we have been planning this raid for weeks. First, we captured the workers. Then we damaged the buildings to make it look like an animal attack. When rescue teams come looking, we capture them too. And the claw marks? We made those ourselves with special tools. Very convincing, do you not think?" Kirix lowered his weapon reluctantly. "There are too many of them, smart insect," the bandit leader said. "Now all of you will come with us. To our base camp. Your friends at the mining station will pay well to get you back." But Hannah was not listening to the bandits' threats. She was looking past them into the jungle. In the shadows between the trees, she could see glowing eyes. Lots of them. The real Vekmora had arrived. "Actually," Hannah said calmly, "I think you have a bigger problem than taking prisoners." "What are you talking about, little human?" "You made fake claw marks to trick people into thinking Vekmora attacked this outpost. So the real Vekmora do not like being blamed for things they did not do?" The bandit leader frowned. "You're trying to scare us. There are no apex predators here. Turn around and look." This time several of the bandits did turn around. What they saw made them freeze in terror. At least 6 massive Vekmora had emerged from the jungle and were standing behind the bandit group. The creatures were even larger than the ones from the convoy attack. Their leader was a huge male, with scars across his face and shoulders. "Impossible," the red-skinned alien whispered. "How did they get so close without making any noise?" "Because they are apex predators," Hannah explained. "And you have been in their territory for days, making noise, damaging their environment, and now using their reputation to commit crimes." The scarred male Vekmora stepped forward. His yellow eyes were focused on the bandit leader with obvious displeasure. He made a low growling sound that seemed to vibrate through the ground. "Shoot them." The bandit leader screamed to her followers. The bandits opened fire with their energy weapons. Several shots hit the Vekmora, but the creatures barely seemed to notice. Their thick fur and tough skin protected them from anything except direct hits to vital areas. What happened next was not a battle. It was an execution. The Vekmora moved like shadows with claws. They separated the bandits into small groups and eliminated them systematically. Their coordination was perfect. Like a military unit that had trained together for years, the bandit leader tried to use Hannah's team as shields, grabbing Kirix and putting a weapon to his head. "Stay back," she yelled at the approaching Vekmora. "I will kill the prisoners." But the scarred male was not intimidated. He approached slowly, his eyes never leaving the bandit's face. "Do not move," Hannah said quietly to Kirix and Talvik. "Let them handle this." "Are you crazy, Kirix?" whispered back. "She has a gun to my head, trust me." The Vekmora leader was now close enough to touch the bandit. I studied her carefully, as if memorizing every detail of her appearance. Then, he looked at Kirix, who was clearly terrified but not resisting. Finally, the creature looked at Hannah. Their eyes met across the small clearing. In that moment, Hannah understood something important. The Vekmora were not just intelligent predators. They were judges. They could tell the difference between aggressors and victims, between criminals and innocents. The scarred male tilted his head slightly, as if asking a question. Hannah nodded. Once. What happened next was too fast to see clearly. The Vekmora moved with incredible speed and precision. One moment the bandit leader was threatening Kirix, and the next moment she was gone. The creature had eliminated the threat without harming the prisoner. Within minutes, the entire bandit group had been dealt with. The jungle returned to its previous silence. The Thekmora gathered around their leader, who approached Hannah's team. But instead of threatening them, the creature made a soft, chuffing sound, the same sound the convoy predator had made. Then he turned and walked into the jungle. The other Thekmora followed, disappearing as silently as they had appeared. "What just happened?" Talvik asked, his voice shaking. Just as Hannah replied, "The real apex predators eliminated the fake ones. They found the 12 missing miners. In a cave about a mile from the outpost, the workers were frightened but unharmed. The bandits had been keeping them as hostages, planning to trade them for ransom." During the journey back to the main mining station, Kirix sat quietly in the passenger seat. Finally, he spoke. "I owe you an apology," he said to Hannah. "For what?" "For thinking humans were weak. What you did back there. Staying calm when those creatures appeared, understanding what they wanted. That took courage and intelligence. I just paid attention to what I was taught." "No," Kirix insisted. "You did something more than that. You recognized another apex predator when you saw one." That evening, back at the mining station, Hannah was called to Vextar's office. The security chief was writing a report when she entered. "Sit down," he said without looking up. Hannah took a seat and waited. "I've been thinking about recent events," Vextar said finally. "The convoy attack, the rescue mission, your interactions with the Thekmora. I believe I may have misjudged your species, sir. Humans are not weak, are they? You were just different. Smaller, perhaps, but with other advantages." "What kind of advantages?" "Intelligence, adaptability, the ability to understand and work with other predators instead of just fighting them." Vextar turned to look at her directly. "On my world, we believe that there are two types of apex predators. The first type dominates through strength and fear. The second type survives through intelligence and cooperation. And which type? Are humans?" "I think you already know the answer to that question." 3 days later, a new human security officer arrived at the mining station. His name was Kung Hunsu, and he looked nervous as he stepped off the transport ship. Hannah met him at the landing pad and helped carry his equipment. "Welcome to Kepler 4-4-B," she said as they walked toward the station. "Thank you. I heard this place can be dangerous. It can be. But if you respect the local ecosystem and understand your place in it, you might find that you have allies you never expected." As they reached the main building, a soft, chuffing sound came from the jungle. Both humans turned to look, and for just a moment, they could see glowing yellow eyes watching them from the shadows. "What was that?" Hunsu asked nervously. A neighbor, Hannah replied with a smile, "Just letting us know he is keeping an eye on things." The eyes disappeared back into the jungle, but the message was clear. The apex predators of Kepler 4-4-B had accepted humans into their territory, not as prey, not as threats, but as fellow hunters who understood the rules of the wild.